Whoa, microphone. Welcome to Go Live. It's Saturday evening over here. That means we've got Go Live, the gaming talk show brought to you by GameOnDaily, and there is a lot to talk about today. If you're looking around at these beautiful camera panels and seeing that Gaz isn't there, funny story. Last week before the show, I said, Gaz, if you auto-tune one more time, I'm banning you. He called my bluff.
He was warned.
I never bluff.
He was warned, guys.
So he's gone. But in his place, we've got the Source co-star, you might say, the ever so talented Seif Zaki. How are you doing, Seif?
Woo! I'm good, man. How are you?
How am I? Whoa, throwing a question back at me. I'm okay. Yeah, so if you've been watching the Source videos, you'll know that Seif is a man of many faces. So actually, if we need Gaz to be here, I can probably say, Seif, be Gaz for a minute, and he can just take on the character. I'm not going to ask him to right now.
I'm Gaz. Oh, no, sorry. I've got practice. I'm not good at Gaz yet.
Was not bad.
Wasn't too bad, right? Gaz, yeah, I'm close.
And we've got two returning guests to the show, both good talkers, so it's going to be a great time. We've got Josh from Quest Mode Games. If you're not aware of Quest Mode Games, Josh does deep dives into some pretty big releases, so previews, guides, and recently reviews as well. Been playing Rise Republic, Far Cry 6, Deathloop, and it's good quality content. He puts a lot of effort into. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the kind words, and yeah, it's good to be back. Haven't been doing as much, I had a podcast and that stopped, so I don't get to talk about video games as much, and I'm excited to be here and talk about some gaming news and what I've been playing.
Oh, we are going to do that. And joining us from Xbox Era, we've got, okay, he goes by One Bad Mother. Conversationally, I cannot use One Bad Mother, so
you can just call me Abe, that's fine.
We are going with Abe. It says Abe on the screen. Abe, how are you doing?
I am great. Thanks so much for having me here today. I am going to miss Gaz a little bit, though. I was, last time I was on here, I tried to behave myself. I figured, I was a new guest, and I was kind of keeping it tame. I didn't really bring too much sauce, and I was ready to bring some sauce. But now, Asa, you're less the sauce guy. You're more like the fine wine. Let's talk about games by the fireplace. So I guess.
He came prepared.
Look at speaking of that.
You're not wrong.
Brilliant.
But that doesn't mean that you can't bring the sauce. The balance is what makes it all work. Let's get straight into it. Abe, what have you been playing?
It's interesting because with, some of the big games that were coming up here, obviously with Forza Horizon, it started on that a couple of days ago. But before that, I was really trying to go through my backlog and trying to identify some games that if I don't get them now, I'll never get them. And I went way back. It was after watching the WB show, they showed some of the games, and I thought, hey, these look actually pretty good. And I never played the old Batman games, and I've had them in my backlog for, God, I think I had the original Arkham Asylum in there since it, came out, and I never played it on the 360. It just sat there, and so I decided to give them a shot because I know about the. They're famous for the combat, and I figured, I'm going to give this thing a try before those other games come out to know whether I want to buy those. And, I played through all three of them, or the three big ones. The first two were really good. The last one, Arkham Knight, was all right. It was a little inconsistent. So, and also I've been playing some Halo Wars too, to get ready for Halo. And for those that don't know, they kind of start to soft reboot that story right in that game and introduce everybody to the Banished. So, it's been a while since I've done an RTS, and it's a good place to restart or start for the first time because it is like baby's first RTS. I used to play them like 20 years ago. This is a lot less complicated, but it in a way that's a really good thing. It works pretty well on the controller.
Sounds perfect for me. I need to get onto it, actually.
It's got some good
plans. Go on. I had grand plans for to get through all of the Halo games in co-op and the Halo Wars games and Halo Wars 2. I've only got through the first tutorial mission of Halo Wars 1 so far, so I don't think I'm going to be there in time, even if I wait for the co-op mode. But take it back to Batman for a minute, because that's quite interesting. You mentioned that Batman was known for having great combat. Batman kind of started the whole context, like the context-sensitive counter-attacking combat that's in pretty much every game today. Does it still hold up? Is it any good now?
What's interesting is I don't think and I've heard that like a lot of games have copied it, but the games that had copied it, I guess I'd been skipping on those too, because it was pretty fresh to me. And in fact, I will say that I got addicted pretty quick. Once I figured out the loop. I played it on the harder difficulty just to try to, so it would force me to learn it. Because I know, I figured since then games have gotten a lot more complex with it. But yeah, I forced myself to kind of learn the loop, and it was so addictive that I flew through that one. I went through City. I mean, I went through all three of them in a pretty short period of time. And I'm usually somebody that is, some of my friends know I'm kind of like ADD gamer. I'm all over the place. I usually don't stick to one thing, long enough. That's why I have such a ridiculous backlog. But it really did hook me up until Arkham Knight. Like I said, I think I almost feel like that one, I probably should have just left it after City and then just kind of waited for the next one. Because I think that one just gets a little bit, it tries to do a bunch of things that it really shouldn't have.
Yeah, I think it's the car mechanics kind of spoil it a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, car mechanics, and it's like even like they give you all these tools, and instead of making it like a sandbox, it's like go here, push this button to use this gadget in this one situation, and then you go back to like a similar looking situation, and then they're like, oh no, you can't order them around, they don't got the headsets, it's way too scripted, I thought. So yeah, I just narrow. Yeah, it's a lot of fun when you're fighting guys, but there's just not enough of it. So,
did you prefer the open world format of City and Night, or did you like the kind of the more contained, more, I don't know if linear is the right word, but more linear
Metroidvania, I think.
Yeah, Metroidvania.
I think I like the Metroidvania better, although I will give City some credit because I've had open world burnout. I think we'll kind of get into that a little bit, but going back to it, it's so focused and you get across the city so fast that it never really felt like I was wasting a ton of time. In some regards, it made me kind of long for that type of open world to come back more. Like I think it's a more compact open world still works, and I think that would offset some, for people that do have the Ubisoft burnout, which I do. I won't go into all that right now, but those games I have been growing very tired of. But going back to that, I didn't really find that to be, I didn't find it to be as exhausting as most of them. I mean, you could skip right through and play it like a linear campaign pretty efficiently, and flying around the city was fun, and even dropping down on guys and just beating them up and then just going back, and I think they did a really good job balancing it. And it's kind of interesting too, because like earlier this year I played Mass Effect 2 and 3 for the first time, and that game jumped up into my top 5 of all time. And you just look back at some of the old game design before these AAA developers felt like they needed to justify the price tag with like 80 hours of gameplay. Those games seem like they hold up. Actually, you asked the question, do they hold up? I feel like I want developers to go back to those really, more focused experiences without all the padding and, cutting and pasting the same thing.
Yeah, Ubisoft
20 times. Yeah, Ubisoft, man. It's like, respect your time a little bit more.
So the big one, so you said you were looking for, you got into those because of what Warner Brothers have shown, what's coming up from DC. Which one? Suicide Squad or Gotham Knights?
Both of them look fun, actually. I like the tone from the Suicide Squad. So, but I figured, I want to know, those look like good games coming up this year. I know there's going to be a lot of hype around them. When the other ones came out, like even though I did buy them, I kind of stepped back from gaming for a few years. So that's one of the reasons I missed Mass Effect 2 and 3 and like a lot of big games. And so I'm sorry, my cat is being an asshole. If you're wondering what I'm fighting with right now, it's wanting attention. But so like I've what were we just saying?
Something about cats.
Yeah. God, I lost my train of thought because of that jackass.
Talking about like some of the WB games coming up.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I know that there's going to be a lot of hype around that when that comes out. It looks really interesting. Out of all the superheroes, I mean, Batman's probably the one that still holds up with me. just even from theatrical. Like, I'm not like anti-Marvel. I'm just not like. To me, it's just it's like always like a 7.5 across the board for me. It's like it looks good on the OLED, you know, or it's entertaining, but at the same time, it's not something I ever like really look forward to. I think Batman's one of the few that still holds up that where I might actually look forward to the movies. And so I saw that stuff. I'm like, all right, yeah, I could get into these games potentially coming out this year. And so, yeah, I just wanted to give those old ones a shot before that. And it worked. I'm now going to end up playing both of them probably day one. So, hey, they did the job.
Before I derail it totally and start talking about those movie trailers, we're not going to do that. This is a gaming show. So, Josh, what are you playing?
So 2 games. I played Riders Republic. I was fortunate enough to get a code for that, so I played it a little early and did make a video for my channel, a tips video. But love that game. It was kind of, I mean, it's different from other Ubisoft open world games in that it's also like a racing and extreme sports game. That's different, but it does have a lot of those open world Ubisoft elements we were just talking about. But I have never been that off-put by that, to be honest. Like Assassin's Creed Odyssey is one of my favorite games of all time. But yeah, I loved it. I thought it really kind of was. So I played Hot Wheels Unleashed not too long ago, but I didn't really like that game. It was just kind of, it was just race after race after race, and they all kind of felt the same. But Riders Republic gave me what I was hoping to get out of that game. I did a lot of races. There are a lot of events. For those who haven't played it, Riders Republic is this open world, kind of, sort of online, persistent online game, but does this weird thing where you do play against other players with almost every race, but you're playing against like avatars. And so
ghost data and stuff.
Yeah, so it feels like it's online, except there are these certain races where you do play against literal other players, but that's only every once in a while. Anyways, it gave me that, along with the open world activities that you can do, going from place to place and just doing all these different things, gave me kind of the racing experience I was hoping to get out of like a Hot Wheels Unleashed. That might sound weird, but just was way more interesting. Tons of stuff to do, all these different extreme sports, kind of mixed it up a lot. It never felt like I was doing the same thing over and over again. If I got tired of snowboarding, I could go do bike racing. If I got tired of that, I could do the wingsuits. The controls were a little wonky. That took me a long time to get used to. So I would prepare for that if you dive into Riders Republic. But if you're looking for a really fun open world to just go explore and learn these different gameplay styles, it was awesome for me. So there was that. And I don't know if you guys want to talk about that more, but there is one other game I've been playing.
Let's hold on Riders Republic for a second, because my experience of it was quite different to yours. So I went into it having seen all the trailers and things, and having played Descenders. I don't know if you're familiar with Descenders, but Descenders is it's on Game Pass. It's a No More Robots game. It's downhill, mountain biking, and it's not got the multiplayer element in the same way as Riders Republic, but it's good fun to race down these hills. I looked at Riders Republic trailers and I saw what they're going for with I think it has a very Forza Horizon vibe rather than a Ubisoft open world game. I know it is from Ubisoft, but they're really driving for that kind of festival spirit and that celebration. So I went into it thinking this is going to be a blend between Descenders and Forza Horizon. And then I played it early as well, not because I got a code, but I'm a subscription junkie, so I've got the Ubisoft PC subscription and they let people in a bit early. And I had a go at it, and I swapped from skis to snowmobile and didn't really feel a difference, and then to bike and didn't really feel a difference. I didn't get along with the controls, like you say, and then I'm finding myself skiing uphill in a river and wondering, like, you can go too much into sim, but I'm skiing up a river in Riders Republic, like,
which you can do, yeah.
And I just didn't really get it. Like, it didn't feel like Descenders, that's for sure. It felt clumsy. I just wanted it to be more than it is in terms of like the raw moment-to-moment gameplay. They've got this fantastic open world, and you open up the map and you see like 1,000 dots that are representing these other players, and it should be so good. And then you ski up a river.
Yeah, and
why?
it is like it is as far from like a sim as you can get. It is just really over the top gameplay, and that's part of it. And I suspect that they wanted the navigation or the traversal to be as easy as possible in that game. And you can't go up the steepest hill on your skis, but you can ski uphill, upstream, whatever. And getting around is really easy in that game. You can fast travel to like any event you want to go to, and the load times are pretty much non-existent. And so I don't know, maybe that was part of that, but yeah, it is pretty wonky and it is wacky. The game it does not take itself seriously. I do think they kind of nailed that festival feel though. I like that about it.
Chat, people in chat, if you've played Riders Republic, tell us what you've found. Have you been skiing uphill? Did it put you off? Is it a good game to you? And Seif, Abe, have you played that game, Riders Republic?
No, and you know, it goes back to what I was just saying. With some of these big things coming out, I thought it's, you know, backlog time, and then December 8th, when that date hits, like just kind of forget about it, kind of close up shop, and you know, I just think at that point, like for right now, it does, unless something is really grabbing my attention. Those borderline type games, I'm just it just feels like it's a poor investment for me right now. Although I will say, I have friends on my friends list that are enjoying that game, and they've said some good things about it. Like, nobody's saying it's like a 9 out of 10 for them or anything like that, but they're like, hey, you know, I'm having fun in this, and I was tempted for that reason, but then I'm just like, you know, I guess I'll I should like piss off Pegasus Nation. I'll just wait for it to be in Game Pass.
I think I'm going to do the same thing. Yeah, I think it's one of those kind of games. It looks like a Game Pass kind of waiting deal for me, anyway.
Well, and that's like, to me, like those games are the most fun when you have a group of friends, right? You're just kind of screwing around and you're not taking it too serious, and you know, it's kind of like just a glorified, you know, chat room in some respects. I remember that, like back in the day, OG Xbox, I remember like with a game like Amped, and it's like we'd all jumped on that and we just kind of bullshit. Like, it wasn't anything. I don't think I ever really got good at that game or anything like that, but it was something we just all did, and it was, you know, kind of fun, relaxing fun. And I can see this working out like that, but the thing is again, I think those types of games are better with groups, at least for me. And when it's you know, when it gets to that point where, you know, a bunch of people on my friends list have it, or it's you know, the price comes down, so it's going to be a lot easier to kind of coerce people to get on it, that'd be great. But again, when Halo hits, forget about it. So I don't know.
that takes priority.
Yeah, I mean, if that was 2 months ago, I probably would have given it a shot. So it's just bad timing, I think.
I will say one itch it scratches is if there's anyone out there who remembers SSX and loved those games, this is the closest we've ever gotten to that.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate
similar.
that.
It's got that kind of fun vibe to it. It looks really cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of a pseudo sequel to Steep, isn't it? Which is obviously a snowboarding game, so you can see where it would get that heritage.
Yeah.
You mentioned another game. What's that?
Forza. So I just started playing Forza Horizon 5, and so if we have like a segment to talk about that later on, we can wait. But
we'll come back to Forza. We'll come back to Forza.
That's like Mario Kart, but with real stuff, right? I've heard of it. I've seen it. I've seen it doing the rounds online.
Do you know, Seif, I'd figured when we started
it can't be any good. It's on Game Pass, guys. You know?
Yeah, I figured we'll talk about Forza, and Seif will be a little bit lost, so I'll let him do some talking afterwards. But I was going to ask you, your one Forza question is, can you admit that it's better than Mario Kart in every way? And clearly the answer is going to be no. But it is.
Well, there's no green shells, so just saying.
So the one man that hasn't been playing Forza Horizon, what have you been playing, Seif?
Actually, kind of similar to Abe, I've been going through some backlogs, old games I have finished them before, but I'm revisiting some classics. So I'm trying to do kind of a Halo marathon. So the plan is to play with our good friend Ryan, that's the Dodge Knight. Anyone out there, big up yourself, Ryan. We're going to play through the Halo games on co-op. But actually, I've started with Halo Reach for now by myself, because I actually missed that game. I think I've only played through it one time when it was first released, and it was just fantastic back in the day. And it's aged really well. It's still a fun game, and really, really enjoying Halo Reach. Apart from that, I was playing Knights of the Republic on Steam, and now it's going to be released on the Switch on the 11th. I've already pre-downloaded it already. I don't know why. I've got it on 4 different platforms now, but keep it coming, man. I don't care. KOTOR is one of my favorite games of all time. So, in between Halo games and co-op mode with that, I'm going to be going back to KOTOR. I've also been playing Battlefield 1 because I'm not really big on Battlefield games. I prefer Call of Duty, but I haven't played a new Call of Duty game in years, so forget that as well. Can't be bothered. But Battlefield, I don't know. It was just sitting there on my PSN. I thought, let me give it a go. And actually, I was quite enjoying it. It doesn't quite have the same snappy, arcadey feel of Call of Duty, so it's not quite my cup of tea. But from a technical perspective, it's fantastic. It just looks amazing, sounds amazing. But yeah, so I've been enjoying that a little bit as well. I gave it a pause now to play Halo Reach, but yeah, that's what I've been playing.
So have you been enjoying Battlefield 1 enough that you're thinking about jumping on Battlefield 2042, or is that not that level of enjoyment?
No, it's not enough to convince me. I'm sure, I mean, okay, it's got its own fan base. I'm sure everyone who plays those games, they really love it, they enjoy it. I mean, I like the genre. Don't get me, military FPS games, I love it, and I prefer the World War II Call of Duties to the more modern ones most of the time. And this is a Battlefield 1, I think, is World War 1, isn't it? But I like that kind of vintage, that retro kind of feel. It feels very visceral, brutal, kind of in the trenches kind of warfare. So I do like that kind of genre. But 2042 futuristic shoot 'em ups, no, I'm okay, except for Halo. But military first person sci-fi shoot 'em ups, like when they go sci-fi with Call of Duty, with Infinite Warfare, was it? Nah. Advanced Warfare, nah. Get out of there. Nah, I don't want that. So
That's
keep it real. Or
you more often hear like the counterpoint to that for Battlefield in particular. A lot of people were calling for a modern one and were upset that Call of Duty went back to World War II. I got to read a super chat. It's Gaz. I banned him, but I didn't take away his internet access.
Hey, that guy's alive.
He says, "I'm plays."
I think it's meant to be intended to be read as auto-tuned. That's how I can hear his voice in my head.
It probably is meant to be auto-tuned. I do not have the technology because I have no desire to edit technology.
Yeah.
Once you bring that back in your head.
Yeah, Gaz is my spirit animal, apparently. So for anyone who joined us late and is wondering where Gaz is, there's nothing to worry about. Everything's fine. He's just having a shower. It's all good. It's a kind of making a ceremony out of it. It's a big deal.
Yeah, he does that.
So rare occurrence. So
Let's really quickly touch on Call of Duty because one of the biggest games in the world has just released. Call of Duty, one of the biggest IPs in the world, is just released, and not a person here has mentioned it as a game that they're playing at the moment. Chat, if anyone has got Call of Duty or is planning to play this Call of Duty, say something in there. Let us know what and why and how good it is, because I've actually heard the early reviews for it, and reviews have been strangely sparse, but they've actually been mostly pretty positive. It had a horrible beta. Yeah, I said beta, not beta, so what, want to fight about it? Yeah, it had a horrible beta.
The Queen's English.
But it seems they've tidied it up in time for launch, and at least the campaign is supposed to be short but pretty polished. So, who to ask? You're all looking like you haven't played it. Any of the three of you played or intending to play Call of Duty this year? Any of the three of you play Call of Duty last year?
I did. I played it the last couple years, actually. I think 2 years ago it made some nice improvements, and I was impressed. Or I guess you kind of set your bar based on expectations, right? But for Activision and Call of Duty, I was pleasantly surprised by the quality that came out of that Modern Warfare, and I played that a good amount of time, and it's probably the most I played Call of Duty since maybe early 360, back in those days. And then the last year's came out, and I got it because my friends do, and that's why I always end up getting it, to join them, and usually end up buying it in like within a week or two. I'm like done. And then it was I went right back to that. It's like it almost to me felt worse, like less weighty, or I don't know what it was. It just didn't feel as good to play. It felt floatier. It felt almost like it took a step back. And then I looked at this one, and it feels a little bit like last year's, at least from the videos. I haven't played it, so I mean, I don't want to, misrepresent that aspect. But to me, there's nothing that screams that this is doing anything better. like I don't expect that you need to have innovation every time, especially if you got a winning formula. But like it it doesn't even look like it's better, right? Like what aspect of it would you look forward to say, oh, this is something that they didn't do before, or they're going to do this better. Whereas a couple years ago, I actually did think it was better, and I feel like they kind of they're doing that back and forth thing. It almost feels like sports franchises, like when they give you something and then they take it away, and then it's almost like doing that back and forth thing. And when you're doing that yearly, it's just I don't feel like supporting it anymore. So even though my friends will probably be on there this weekend, they can. I'll see them again when Halo comes out.
So basically, it's FIFA with guns, right?
Yeah, basically that's all it is.
The last Call of Duty game that I played was Call of Duty 2, whatever it was called, World War 2, on the launch day of the Xbox 360. That was a good game. I know, and it's been at its peak since then. I know everyone likes these games, but they've never really been for me. I don't know. So yeah, and this one's not going to change it, especially in the trailer when they showed the campaign trailer and they had the character doing the PlayStation climb up these bricks. And it's like, what? Who built those houses? Why are there climbable bricks jutting out of the walls? It's just silly.
I actually got some Uncharted vibes from that trailer, like with the way the set pieces work and then how you climb up, even though it's first person.
Exactly why I call it the PlayStation climb.
Yeah. But
yeah,
that was actually I thought the campaign looked interesting. The last time I played a Call of Duty was the Modern Warfare reboot, which I think was 2 years ago now at this point. Just because I thought I actually don't play Call of Duty multiplayer at all and never have. I just get crushed every time I drop in. So I thought that what they were doing with the storytelling aspect of that campaign, I thought was interesting. They were kind of like, we're taking it back down to earth. This is a more reality-based military shooter. And I actually thought they did a great job with that campaign. And I will say, whenever I jump into a Call of Duty game, it's like a reminder of how, I don't know if quadruple A exists yet, but the Call of Duty campaigns are really spectacular from just a cinematic standpoint, and graphics are amazing. So if I feel like something like that, I might dive into Call of Duty Vanguard. But yeah, there's too much else to play right now for me to really care, to be honest.
Yeah, it's also the campaign's said to be around 5 hours long, which if you're not interested in the multiplayer, that's a fair price per hour. And I'm not recommending judging games on like how many hours you play for how much they cost, but $70, 70 quid for a 5-hour campaign, it would have to be pretty damn special.
Well, and it's just Asa, to that point, it's not just that it's 5 hours. Like for me, they're just not highly replayable because you're kind of playing them for those big water cooler. I think that's like the sell of them, right? Like the big pieces. Water cooler moments. Yeah. Other than that, it is pretty much whack-a-mole. Get in the cover and just wait. Which is fine if it feels good. If the combat feels good, I guess that's cool. But going back to Halo, and I am a bit of a Halo fanboy, by the way. But like when it comes to something like that, I don't feel like it needs to be a 20-hour campaign or 40-hour campaign, because those games you can play over and over again, especially as you turn up the difficulties. Those are more dynamic, and that's the thing. I guess I'm going back to what I was saying earlier, where Call of Duty really hasn't grown. It just feels very on rails, like the campaigns do, and then the multiplayer too doesn't really. I don't know. It's just not as dynamic. It's very straightforward, and it's not as interesting to replay those. Like turning up the difficulty. It's like, okay, now it's a little bit harder whack-a-mole, but it's not like you're learning the environments any differently or the enemies any different. So it's not like you're learning the game or thinking it any different. So. I just think they're just not, to your point. It's not just that it's 5 hours. It's 5 hours of
formulaic.
There you go. Thank you. You're
welcome.
I needed somebody to help me with the words today. I was like, I'm going to run off a couple paragraphs until I can think of the word.
There's a word somewhere.
It's there. Thank you.
That's actually. That's actually why I'm looking forward to Halo Infinite. I'm not a Halo guy. I've actually only played through Combat Evolved. That's the only Halo game I've ever played start to finish. But I love that the new one, Infinite, is going to be much more open, and I feel like if they nail that, it will be much more engaging. It won't feel like it's on rails. I thought, of course, we're talking about a 20-year-old game, but I thought Combat Evolved was super repetitive and way too on rails, as you put it. And I'm sure 2, 3, 4, 5, all the other Halos are much different. But I love that it's going more open. I think it'll be more engaging, give me more to do. Let me kind of develop my own play style through that game. At least that's what I'm anticipating. And so, with Call of Duty, it's you go through one level, it gives you one way to go through, and there's not much exploration. Like Doom, one of my favorite first-person shooters of the last 5 years, Doom and Doom Eternal. You can play those levels at least twice, I feel like, if you're going to explore and
loads of nooks and crannies and things to see.
So Josh, I do got to challenge you one time because you're on the show with the Halo fanboy. But I know
what you're gonna say.
I would challenge you, like with the old Halos, like play those again if you have them in your backlog, but or give them another shot. But one thing I would suggest is like turning up the difficulty. For me, like CE is still my favorite game of all time, and honestly, the first time I played through it, like there were some wow moments in it, but I wouldn't have put it up that high. It was really when I came back to it, like on Heroic and then Legendary, where it kind of like then it becomes dynamic. I think when it's too simple or too easy, it does feel like it's on rails, and then it does become repetitive. But when you really kind of challenge yourself, it becomes almost like a puzzle, and you'll replay the same checkpoint over and over, and you start to rethink, okay, well, this time I'll take out this enemy first and grab his gun and unload a whole needler clip, and hopefully I can take out that crowd. And you start to play it. It's almost like a puzzle when you do it that way. And I think that's where Halo, when I look at the Infinite, what I'm really excited about is they're taking that concept to another level, and that could be really exciting, especially when you get on the higher difficulties.
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, Halo 1 was obviously an OG Xbox game, so it's a bit more contained, and 2 and 3 definitely open it out more. And we could talk a lot about Halo, but we have talked a lot about Halo every week, so we'll see if there's time on that one. For now, let's talk about, so Abe, you mentioned Call of Duty, like why would you change a winning formula? Forza Horizon 5. Horizon 5 is taking a winning formula, undeniably taking the formula from Forza Horizon 3 and 4, carrying it forwards, and delivering one hell of a game. Let's talk about Forza Horizon 5. So, Abe, you've been playing it?
I have been. And I put in probably, I don't know, maybe 4 hours at the most right now. Like I obviously Forza Horizon is kind of the pinnacle of racing games. However, I would say that after 4, I think when 4 came out, I felt like that's when I was in the height of my open world burnout. Like I beat Horizon Zero Dawn. I went to that. I think I played, 20 hours of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which, I know, Josh, that's one of your favorites. After about 20 hours, I was good there. And then same thing with Forza Horizon 4. I felt like I was just kind of doing the same thing over and over, and it wasn't really feeling that rewarded. And the environments were kind of samey. So I fell off of it. It was a high quality game, but it wasn't something that necessarily super excited me. So with Forza Horizon 5, like coming up to this, I don't want to say I was apathetic. I was looking forward to it. I mean, because visually you could obviously, when they showed it off, it looked pretty stunning at E3. And so I was looking forward to just seeing what those pretty graphics looked like on the big OLED over here. So I was definitely going to give it a run that way. But I will say I am right now, I am pleasantly surprised because I thought, okay, it's going to be more of the same. So, maybe I'll fall off. I'll give it 20 hours and fall off. This one is, I think the difference in Forza, or maybe in car games, or maybe just open world car games, like I think you think about maybe the main character is the cars. In this game, I think the main character is the environments. And that is what is, I think, really making this experience feel a lot different, because the environments are a completely different level from Forza Horizon 4, not just in terms of the technical quality, and how stunning they are, but just even if it was the same level of technical, even if it's the same level of graphics, I think that they're just a lot more interesting to look at. A lot more. You can choose the types of races you want to play. It's a lot more streamlined in terms of the campaign as well, and that was a huge turnoff with for this one. I think because it gives you this more focused way to progress through the game, and not only that, it kind of balances the two. It does it like it's more focused, but you still get choice. So I've been just really like on all these dirt races because those are the most fun to me. And at this point in time, I feel it's significantly better than 4. Even though on the paper you think it's just graphics, it just all around feels like a step up, right? Like it's iterative, but it's iterative like all around. Like every aspect of it's better. And the one thing we haven't even got into yet is like the creative mode, which I was kind of looking at that, and nobody's really kind of talked about that yet. But I'm interested to see now they got this almost this Forge like Forza thing going on, and what's going to happen there, especially with all the PC guys kind of making stuff for it. So yeah, overall, I've been very impressed, and it's exceeded my expectations, which I didn't think there was really any further they could go in terms of the quality. I thought they're going to have to reboot the formula, and somehow they were able to stick with kind of the similar formula and really improve every other aspect of the game.
So that's like that's interesting, because I went back to Forza Horizon 4 today just to take a look at it in comparison to see if my memory was deceiving me and how similar it was. And I find, and this isn't like downplaying what Forza Horizon 5 does, but in terms of the way the game opens up, I found the pacing to be beat for beat really similar. Really similar, from title menu to the way that it delivers the campaign with the intro sequence with the sample of these cars, and then the way the map opens up from there. And this is why I say about like using a winning formula and carrying it forwards. Forza Horizon 5 definitely is iterative on the formula rather than a complete rewrite, which you'd expect. And it's praise to Playground Games to say that their biggest rival, their closest rival, is themselves. There's nobody else in that space that's making a game as good as they are. So that's fantastic to see. It is a significant step up. So when you see people around saying like this is just DLC for Forza Horizon 4,
it's not.
No, it's not. I went back to check with my own eyes. Like, I'm going to have a look at this. Is it actually? Because Forza Horizon 4 was gorgeous, and they upgraded that for the Series X, and they pushed the Series X with it. So they had to compromise a couple of things, and like the night racing, they had to tone down the lights to get that 60 frames per second, which makes you think they're pushing that console. They're using the same engine for the next one. What are they going to improve? How much better is it going to be? And then you look at the textures and see what they've done with the photogrammetry, and it is a significant step up. And you listen to the engines, and that's a significant step up. And you look at the shadows, and that's a significant step up. So the core gameplay and the pacing of it, it's very familiar to me. But it is a phenomenal game. I'm working on a video on it. That's why I'm going back to the old ones and doing things like that, and getting all this footage you might have seen on Twitter of the time lapses of the weather and stuff like that. Phenomenal game, great fun to play. And I say this, I'm stubborn, and I want my racing games to support virtual reality, or I'm not happy. This one doesn't, and yet I'm finding it fun to play, and that says a lot, because I'm stubborn. It's a great game. Josh, have you been playing it? You said you have earlier. How have you found it?
Yeah, so I so far I have a love-hate relationship with this game, which is extremely surprising to me. I thought I was just going to love every part of it, but a big part of that is, I don't know if any of you have had this issue. I'd be very curious. Whenever I play any of the online components, whether there's like for example, there's like the arcade events, and I just bumped my microphone, so let me know if my sound's good. But
good.
There's these arcade events, and last night I played one of them, and it just was unplayable. Like, it would constantly reset my objective over and over and over again. I would go to it, and there the mic goes. Sorry about that.
You're still good, though.
All right. So yeah, there was that, and then when I'm not in these events and I'm just racing the world, I get these constant notifications that I'm disconnected. It happens about every 5 minutes. You're disconnected, and that makes queuing up for a match almost impossible at times, which is super frustrating. So I'm dealing with that, and that's actually one of the elements of the game I'm looking forward to the most, is just seeing how those online competitive modes work. Particularly, there's another one. There's like a battle royale mode in the game, which I think is really interesting. I played a round of that. That actually I got through just fine. But then there was another element of and there's a lot that I love about this game. Sorry, I'm going into the kind of the negative at first, but with the battle royale, it drops you in, and I find the game does this a lot. Like, I'm not one for hand holding. I don't need a game to hold my hand. But I dropped into the battle royale. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, just racing around. And I'm like, I think I challenge these other players. So I drive by someone else and I press the X button and it challenges them. I'm like, okay. But then it's like, then there's a card drop. I'm like, what's a card drop? What am I supposed to do? I look around, there's some smoke over there. So I did figure it out. But a lot of this game is just figure it out as you go. I have not played the other Horizon games for long. I played Forza Horizon 4 for maybe 3 or 4 hours, and something else came up. So as a first-time Horizon player, I'm a little overwhelmed. So that's kind of all the stuff that's bugging me about the game. But what I love about it is what Abe touched on. I mean, the world, I totally agree, that's the main character of this game. It is beautiful. It's super fun to explore. I do find the biomes to be different enough where they're interesting to go and check out. And then I love the progression. I don't know if the other Horizon games have done it, but the way it gives you all these accolades, I mean, just a bounty of stuff to do. Like you open up that accolades menu after you unlock some of the adventures that you have to do, and it's just like literally thousands of tasks that you can pin them to your map, go do them. And I feel like if this game is for you, you could be playing forever and never run out of stuff to do. So it's I'm really hoping they smooth out the online stuff. If that gets fixed, I'm all in. I'll be playing this game for a long time.
You know, the battle royale is quite a fun thing. Well, actually, no, I hate it. I hate battle royale in every game, including Forza Horizon. But I could be wrong on this, but as far as I know, that was brought into Forza Horizon 4 post-launch. And when you talk about the game being iterative, everything that arrived in Forza Horizon 4 over the course of its life, essentially, pretty much everything, all the core stuff, is carried straight forwards into Forza Horizon 5. So there may be an assumption that people already know how these things work. I did the same as you. I went into the Battle Royale and didn't really know where the car drops were or what was going on. It says, pick where you want to spawn. And I'm like, I don't know. What am I doing? Am I tagging these other cars? Am I racing them? I've got no idea what's happening here.
Yeah, like, would it hurt to just put a little tiny bit of a tutorial in there? Maybe. But, you know, again, this is the 5th game. I'm probably in the minority of people who are jumping in, especially early, of, you know, newbies. But it is overwhelming.
It is a very secondary mode, though. Like, it was post-content, bit of like post-launch content for Forza Horizon 4. And it's good that they aren't chopping that stuff off, out, I guess. So the worst part of it for me was the little arcade challenges. If you're looking for negatives, I was streaming it at the time on Thursday maybe, and I went and did the arcade challenges, and it's like it just throws quick fire things at you, like reverse at this speed for this long, smash things, jump, and all that kind of stuff. And I was doing these challenges for 10 minutes, and it was like it was wearing thin. I don't want to be doing this anymore. I've failed a couple of them. I'm getting most of them, but it's wearing thin. And then the 10 minutes counts down, and it says, you got no points. And I was like, how dare you? Delay this damn game.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was all about.
The arcade challenge was by far my worst experience. That was it was reset. So I had to do like these power slides to earn points, and I would do it, and then it would reset my score to 0 over and over and over again. Really frustrating. But you know, it's early access right now. Hopefully they have a patch and this stuff gets smoothed out.
Sounds like some teething problems. But
it is, yeah. Cox just mentioned in the chat there's currently over 800,000 people that are playing that game, which means there's 800,000 people, getting on for 1 million people by now, that have paid the £40 for the premium edition early access. It's not only early access, right? You get the content packs that are coming, but most of these people that are buying it, generalizing, but most people that are buying it have just seen all of this positive feedback and just can't wait till Tuesday to play it on Game Pass. Which is a fantastic sign for the game, right?
It's brilliant.
But
it is. Sorry about that. I was going to say, it's one of those things that kind of goes under the radar too. Like everybody, you know, I've heard, you know, when some of the game of the year talk, you were, you know, like, well, it's a car game, so obviously this isn't something that should be considered. But you know, when you think about it, though, like car games generally, and I know Gran Turismo has sold a lot in its lifetime, but I mean, what is it? It had 25 million on the last one, people playing it, right? And I think the interesting thing about this game is it doesn't just appeal to car fans. It feels like I've heard it over and over again. People that say I'm not usually into card games, but I'm having fun with this. I know somebody actually like him, and he's not into racing games at all, but he got got Game Pass. He's not even an Xbox guy. It's like he got it as a DVD player a few years ago, a 4K player for his TV, and the kids ended up getting Game Pass, and he played it. He's like holy crap, he's not even into those into racing games, and he just was so impressed by driving around and kind of having fun in the world. And I think there's something to that. This seems to be like one of those games that kind of brings people into the genre that normally wouldn't, and that has to say something, right? Like there's a certain level of quality. If it was that easy, then why hasn't other games been able to achieve that? So
I feel the same way. It's like got universal appeal.
Yeah,
because I'm not really big on realistic car games. I'm still waiting for Mario Kart Horizon, the open world Mario Kart game that I've just announced. But no, it's Forza Horizon is brilliant. I haven't played the new one yet, but I was really enjoying 4. So it's got universal appeal. People just seem to enjoy jumping into that kind of open world environment. It's just exciting. And it looks spectacular, which helps a lot.
Accessible as it is, if you press Y to rewind, you're worse than coming last place. The Y button is cheating. Do not do it. I'm watching you.
It's tempting.
But yeah, so the biggest concern has to be all these disconnects. So I've been playing it, and I've been getting disconnects every 5 minutes or so. At first, it seemed a lot of people moved to New Zealand when the game came out, right? A lot of people changed their Xbox region so that they could get as early as possible, like manipulating their time zone and trying to get the game as soon as possible. And there's this feeling that maybe, I think they put out a statement and that was causing a few problems. Maybe that's causing a few problems. The next day, that's not an excuse anymore. It's still disconnecting, okay? You've got nearly 1 million people have jumped on the game. It's going to be worse on Tuesday. Yep. So you got to hope that it's fixed. In its defense, if you're just getting into the game and driving around and having fun, it handles those disconnects so elegantly compared to any other game.
Yes.
The online infrastructure and the way that Forza Horizon just blends it with the offline modes. You can drive along and it says, by the way, you're disconnected. You don't stop driving. You don't get booted to a lobby. You don't reconnect to the world. There's just not other players there at the time, right? It's the online infrastructure that powers Forza Horizon 5 is light years ahead of any other game that I've come across, and it's the same as it was in Forza Horizon 4. So if you've played that, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
you're not getting that elsewhere. That's where Microsoft is strong, and they are bringing it to Forza Horizon 5.
And I think it does a similar thing that what I mentioned in Riders Republic, where if you play on offline, it does populate with avatars. So you are playing. I think you're still playing against other drivers, just not live. So I played in offline mode. And honestly, for the campaign, there's really no difference. But it's when you want to start like getting into some of the the online only, the arcade events and the battle royale, then it gets pretty rough.
So that's
also the user. I just want to mention the user generated stuff is awesome too. Like they have these challenge cards that you can. I think they're user generated, where people like design just challenges for you in the world, and they're just random. Like one I had to get from point A to point B in under 2 minutes without damaging my car. Another one was this race where I had to get from each checkpoint as quick as possible. I don't know if that makes sense, but really unique stuff that I don't know if the devs would have ever thought of. And
kind
that's
of
some of the most fun I've had.
Of a racing game, just saying.
Well, it's more complicated than that. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. The point being, like the user-generated content, I feel like is so far I've had a lot of fun with that too. So that's just another.
It's gonna be wild. So if you're used to the library editor on the old Forza games, people create phenomenal things with the basic shapes that gives you. And if you take that into the world of creating tracks and putting obstacles around, I don't know if you've played Dirt 5. So Dirt 5 is a rally game. I consider it kind of a sequel to Drive Club because it's very similar in concept and structure. But that had a user content creation mode that led to a lot of fun things, and you can see that's going to be a feature of Forza Horizon that has legs. It's a new feature that wasn't in 4, and it's going to add a lot to the game over time. So that's fantastic to see as well. I'm not going to make anything. I'm terrible at making things. But I will have a look at what the rest of the community are doing. Seif, I feel bad because you've not played this game yet. So let's talk about some Nintendo stuff. This is your moment.
Yay! My moment to shine. Let me get my notes. Hang on. I'm prepared for this. Okay.
He actually is. Go for it.
Well, there's been some Nintendo news lately. They've had I sent you the report. There was like a financial report from the second quarter of the year from Nintendo, and they've made some interesting announcements regarding where they plan to take their franchises and IP in the future. So they're going to open up and expand their theme park, the Super Nintendo World, I think it's called, in Tokyo. They're going to open new parks in Orlando and Hollywood and Osaka as well. They're going to do a Donkey Kong World expansion for that. So that's exciting. And they're actually sinking a lot of money into these projects and also into film licenses as well. So as some of you may know, Illumination Animation is who created Minions and Despicable Me. They're working on a Super Mario CGI movie, which will be out next year, I think December 2022. And Nintendo are interested in pursuing more movie licenses. Actually, one of them, I think it was somebody on Twitter recently said they were interested in making a Metroid movie.
Oh,
And
be
that would
awesome.
be cool. That would be amazing. I mean, come on, it lends itself so well to that. That's not a map of Mordor on my wall. That's actually Skyrim. So someone in the chat is asking, Sleepy Goblin, that's a map of Skyrim. That's where I came from. No, I didn't. No. But thanks for that. But yeah, so Nintendo are really pushing this. And I mean, that report contains so many, budgets and financial figures. It's all these statistics, very complicated. But the other thing they want to do is expand on their merchandise. So they're going to open up new stores. They have quite a famous one in New York City. So they're going to do in other cities as well. I think mainly in Japan for now, because I'm surprised they don't actually. I don't think they have a proper Nintendo store even in Japan until coming soon, basically. So pop-up stalls and things like that, and they just they want to push their merchandise towards customers. And I don't know, I think it's an interesting move from Nintendo. I wasn't really expecting something like that. I mean, I remember one vacation I took in Dubai, they had a Sega World, like a theme park, Sega themed one, in a shopping mall. It was crazy. So yeah, Nintendo following suit, doing something similar to them. What do you guys think? I mean, I think
That's
it's kind
cool.
of a crazy idea,
To me, it's
very
I'm going to go
interesting.
first and then lead it on to you two. So for me,
Go for it.
it's wild to see how different Nintendo are to Microsoft in terms of strategy. All of the stuff that you just said, like everyone that's looking at the industry is seeing what Microsoft are doing with Game Pass, seeing the future of streaming, seeing all of this stuff happen and saying Sony needs to copy that. And then you've got Nintendo at the complete opposite end of the spectrum going, we're going to make more toys and we're going to make them bigger. And it's just like, wow, why does this company exist? No, I'm going to be nice. It's interesting if it plays out for them. But if it does play out for them, when you talk about the company that Sony needs to chase to keep growing, they don't just need to chase streaming. They've got options to look at what Nintendo are doing with their wild overpricing and terrible games. They could do that. Sony could do that. What do you reckon,
Rampant
Josh?
overpricing.
I think of when I see like all the stuff that they're doing, it seems to me they're kind of taking a page from like the Disney playbook, actually, which makes sense because
Someone mentioned as well.
Nintendo.
Josh just stole mine. Keep going.
Sorry. What Nintendo has that I think Sony and Microsoft don't yet anyway is like their IP are on another level. Like Mario is on a Mickey Mouse level, and I don't think that Sony or Microsoft have anything quite like that. So they can open a theme park and around the Mario IP or Donkey Kong
Exactly.
or Pokemon, and people will flock to it. If Sony did that, like I'd be into going. I think that'd be cool, but I just don't think it would have the mass market appeal. So I think that's smart.
Uncharted World.
I mean, that sounds awesome to me, but I don't know how many other people would agree. But yeah, and same with the movies, like Mario. Say what you will about Chris Pratt, but that movie's probably going to make a ton of money. And then there's a Donkey Kong movie, I think, starring Seth Rogen, who I think Seth
Yeah.
Rogen's voice is actually perfect for Donkey Kong.
Perfect,
but-
yeah. That's going to be a spin-off of that, probably. So
yeah. And if they did a Metroid movie, that would be awesome.
Amazing,
like
yeah.
make it as hardcore PG-13. Not quite. I don't think Metroid is a rated R movie, but if they made it like dark and gritty, that'd be something.
no
I'd be
chest
into, so-
bursters in this film.
Yeah,
Right.
no.
But when you talk about like, so if you bring it back to Sony just briefly, I know it's not about Sony, it's about Nintendo. But when you talk about Nintendo expanding into movies, that's also obviously an area where Sony are very well positioned if they want to. Their IP might not be as strong, but they make movies.
And they are, yeah. And I actually think the Uncharted movie, I thought the preview looked pretty good, for what it is. I think that they're clearly making a play there. I think they're making a Twisted Metal show. They're doing Uncharted, and they have a whole. I think they have a whole portion of their business set up just to make movies. So I'd look forward to that. And yeah, I think Sony could do that. I think Microsoft could do that. Like if it was done well, I think a Halo movie could be cool. But Nintendo, it's just like you just put Mario on it and people will go.
It's gonna sell. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the difference.
Halo movies are going to struggle with it. Go on, Abe.
Yeah, I mean, I almost don't know where to start. So I guess first thing I'll start is saying that when it comes to Nintendo movies, Nintendo theme parks, Nintendo cereal, I don't care about any of that stuff. I grew up, Metroid is one of my top 5 franchises of all time in terms of playing it, but in terms of how that's going to look on the big screen, there's nothing there that makes, because it's never been about the story for me, at least the story and lore. I know Metroid Prime had some stuff built in, but that's never been the point of those games for me. So, but I'm speaking about myself, but thinking about Nintendo and what they're doing, I don't really think that Microsoft or Sony can duplicate it or are.
Nah, I don't think so.
Nintendo, they're all these companies are very different, right? Like Microsoft is their core has been with services and software. Now it's cloud and services, and Sony has always been this this movie company. Nintendo's always been more of a toy company, right? And I think when you said Disney, that's the thing that comes to my mind. Their IPs, they're the closest thing that gaming has to Disney. And just like Disney can kind of do their own thing. You remember when they did the stupid vault things? It's we're going to bring this movie out, and then you got a few days to buy it, and then we're going to put it back in the vault, and everybody kind of falls for that crap, and they go out and buy it. They had because their IPs were so revered, they could do whatever the hell they wanted. But even the thing is that's interesting with Disney is even Disney now is kind of pivoting a little bit, right? But they're able to wait. They're able to wait and come in 20 years after Netflix starts it, and then catch up to Netflix in a week, or get halfway there, right? They're just doing crazy things like that. And that's because of their IP. Microsoft and Sony don't have that. You can Metacritic all you want and talk about, how revered these IPs are, but they're not on those levels. From just this worldwide where, soccer moms don't know who Kratos is, right? They know who Mario is. And so
that lovely bold gentleman who's very angry.
yeah.
Is Mario bold?
So now I do think, and that's probably just a different topic, but I do think what Microsoft's trying to do with engagement is going to be interesting. I know they want to chase that a bit and build that up over time, and they can do that by reaching a lot more people and lowering the barriers to their games and IPs. And that's one, that's kind of a different argument for a different day, but it's when people keep talking about, you're devaluing games by doing this or that, it's really about, what's the mind share of your IP. Nintendo doesn't need to do that. Nintendo, they sell more copies of Zelda than they have had Switches at one point, or some crazy thing like that. So they don't need to do that kind of thing. But I think for everybody else, it's really today they gauge the value of IPs by mind share and engagement, and that's worth more than a box sale. It's definitely worth more than a UK box sale. Twitter, but But Nintendo already has that, and I think that's the thing that the other companies want to chase, and that's where you even hear Layden talking about it, hey, I want to figure out how to get these played by 100 million. That's what Nadella wants, and that's why it's not always about just the sale of the games. You can start maximizing profit when you get your IPs to that level, which the other companies are still
Nintendo has.
Yeah, and they do have it.
They've just got such a massive marketing appeal, just appeals to so many demographics and such a wide range of audiences. You can't really match that, and it lends itself very well to that kind of entertainment. So you've got your pop-up stores, shops, theme parks. I can't really picture Microsoft or Sony doing something similar. I don't think they would anyway, but their IPs, Master Chief Land, I'd go there, don't get me wrong, I'd love it. You can dress up as a Spartan for the day and enjoy little Nerf guns, it'll be cool. Oh, that's an idea. Guys, write this down.
You even
I'm
saw
gonna talk to Microsoft.
you even saw Nintendo pull a page out of the Disney playbook with what they did with Mario 3D All Stars, pulling it off the market. Like Disney does that with their movies, or at least they used to.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still
They
do.
used to, yeah.
But like they used to have these DVDs that they would release, and then if you didn't get them in a certain time window, tough luck.
Super limited release.
Yeah.
No, Abe said a couple of interesting things there. One, loads of interesting things. Sorry, Abe, loads of interesting things. But the ones that stood out. One, why does Twitter love UK box sales? I don't know. I've not bought a box game for like a decade at least.
Can we address that topic? It's so stupid.
It's
If I gotta hear,
Go
I don't want
for
to
it.
call
All
out
right.
any names. I don't want to call out any names, man. But if I gotta hear like every freaking like game that releases, we get a UK box sales, and look what Game Pass is doing. It's like, anyways, man. Like there's no context. UK box sales don't. Can I swear? They don't. Fucking
You can
matter.
swear.
So they don't mean anything. They're not even a data point unless you have some trending information like all the other context. So anyways, I just thought I'd throw that out there because we'll get it again, I'm sure, with the next I guess Call of Duty, yeah, right. So we'll see those UK box sales probably early next week.
Do you know what? This wasn't going to be a topic for today, but you've just reminded me. I did see there was a stat going around from Capcom's financials that detailed a massive discrepancy in sales between PlayStation and Xbox. Abe, do you think there's anything to that? Because that's a more relevant data point, right?
Yeah, that would be if it's overall. And the thing is, like, I think that's an interesting one to dive in. The thing to keep in mind with Capcom, though, is that they do have some exclusives on Sony's platform, and like Resident Evil was the lead platform was Sony. That they got the extra, the extra demo, and so for multi-console owners, if you had both, you're probably going to go with Sony on that one. The most interesting thing that kind of jumped out, though, with those metrics, and by the way, I'm a data and analytics guy, I'm managing that, so I think about all these like other variables. Is that like when they did show some of the sales previously, like they seem like the majority of their sales were on next gen, specifically on the PS5, and to me, that what that shows is that Capcom's base, at least for this year, like a lot of their sales were more the gaming enthusiast, and the gaming enthusiasts have more. They're more on PS5 than Xbox right now. Just based on the chips availability, and then you factor in the lead platform thing, and then here's my cat again. But yeah, like you kind of factor all those things together. It does skew it a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, we know that also Xbox is more of a Western console. In addition to that, so you would expect that's going to be another thing that skews it. So I don't know how much to make of it, and for me, it's always about trends. It's like let me see what the trends of the multi-plats were, right? And then let's see like what Devil May Cry maybe did, and what things that other games, right? So right now, I think we're in a weird time because there's a lot more PS5s out there than Xboxes, and for whatever reason, when it comes to new AAA, specifically single-player games, it is the enthusiasts, the people that have already migrated over, that are buying the majority of these right now. So that's these are all the interesting things that I consider. I don't know that I can make a conclusion. I wouldn't with that data. But these are just some of the things I would say. Like you need to look more into that stuff before you go to some conclusion that this company doesn't sell any games here anymore, because there's a lot of other factors going on.
We've got super chat from Harjit Chani there. Harjit's a regular supporter of this show and many others, so thank you for that. Says sales have to be taken into context. The Xbox versus PlayStation install base is 20% to 80%, so you'd expect 80% of sales for the PlayStation and 20% for Xbox if the attach rate is the same, which is fair because you do have to consider most people buying games are still buying them for that previous generation of consoles, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One generation, which we know there were a lot more PlayStations out there. Let's move on from sales, because I don't like sales. I like talking about games.
What? One last thing. I just thought of it, Asa.
You love your data.
Yeah. Those were physical sales, by the way. That split was physical. They clumped together all the digital. If you looked on the sheet. So, anyways, Sony definitely has a big split on the physical.
They definitely do seem to, at least in the UK as well. I mean, we know that Microsoft and Xbox are ahead in their kind of digital strategy relative to Sony anyway. So in terms of that migration from digital to physical, or no, silly, from physical to digital,
all the way around. Yeah.
it is more so for Xbox. You'd expect their physical sales to reduce faster as well. Let's go back to Nintendo. So the other thing that you said, Abe, that I wanted to pick up was you said that Nintendo, Sony, and Xbox are all very different. And I just wanted to say, yes, they are, and long may that continue. So you see a lot of people wishing for these things to converge, and it's fantastic that they're different and that they cater to different people. There's obviously a massive overlap in some cases, but I don't want Sony to drop their single-player cinematic games. I don't want Microsoft to drop all of their online focus. Much as I don't personally like Nintendo very much, I don't want them to drop their focus on toys and fun, right? That's Nintendo. That's their thing. They started as a toy company. They moved into electronics, and they're keeping that focus. And I want them to do that for the people that do like it. Not for me. Screw them. I'm going to keep throwing my Switch, and if it hits something hard, so be it.
You're so mean.
But yeah, great that they're different. Safe, you love Nintendo. Let's smoothly segue. Oh, yeah. You love Nintendo. Does that mean... How do you feel about Sega?
Back in the olden days, in the days of yore, the mid-90s console war, of which I'm sure we are all veterans, I was firmly on Nintendo's side back in those days. I respect Sega. I laughed when they went third party because to me that felt like Nintendo won. But they have great IP. I'm sorry, I know I'm saying really offensive things, but they have great IPs, and they are a very fun company, and they do have a lot of interesting things planned. So I think we're about to jump into a very interesting topic now, which is their partnership with Microsoft. And this is, I was reading about it earlier on, and it's very, very interesting indeed, because if we take either side of these companies, Microsoft perspective, why would they choose Sega? What is it about Sega that they like, that they wanted to pursue? And from Sega's point of view, why choose to partner with Microsoft? And I think the answer is in terms of cloud gaming, basically. So they have the Azure platform, and Sega apparently have some initiative called Super Game. It's a kind of a mystery project at the moment, and they want to pursue cloud-based gaming, and Microsoft is obviously leading the charge on that front. So what do you guys think of that partnership?
I'm gonna just interrupt briefly because I did miss a chat. Haji is renewed his membership for a 5th month. So thank you for all your support, and that comes with a little message that says, this is rewinding back through the topics because I missed it. It's my fault, my bad. Of the last 4 10 out of 10s given by IGN, 3 are games from Xbox: Forza Horizon 5, Deathloop, and Flight Sim. So that's 3 games this year. The 4th is Disco Elysium. Who has the bangers? We're not going to answer that because I think you've made the point that you want to. Yes, Microsoft have put out some fantastic games. And if you add the likes of Age of Empires to that, and hopefully Halo and so forth, and Psychonauts 2, high-scoring games from Microsoft. So things are definitely shifting, which is what everybody has wanted to see since Microsoft started announcing that they're getting all of these studios. So that bodes well. Yeah. A little bit of context for the Microsoft and Sega partnership. So it's been announced as very, very similar to the partnership that they announced with Sony a while back with PlayStation. So the partnership is between Microsoft's Azure team and Sega. And what has been announced is that they are working on Sega's Super Game Strategy, which I find really endearing, but only if you surround it in Japanese. If you just take it as Super Game Strategy, it sounds ridiculous. But if you're like, Super Game Strategy, then it's awesome, right? It becomes endearing. And I say that as...
automatically.
Did you practice that? That was
no,
really
I did
good.
not. But I worked...
we watch a lot of anime.
In a previous life, I worked at a Japanese company that I won't specify. And they had strategy become best company in the world. And it just sounds awesome when they put these English things in there. So that's what Sega are doing. It's Super Game Strategy, right? And they're partnering with Microsoft to use Azure to try and bring it to life. So you could say, much like the Azure team partnering with PlayStation, it doesn't suddenly mean that Microsoft own that company. They don't own Sega. But they also have, to add a little spice to it, so Sarah Bond, who is very much in the Xbox gaming team, is instrumental in making that deal happen. So you can think that the Xbox agenda is being pushed in that relationship. And about 2 or 3 days after this this announcement that they're planning to work together for this strategy and they're going to use Microsoft's development environment, about 3 days later they announced that Total War Warhammer 3 is coming to Game Pass, which is a big game in the PC space. It's a massive RTS in the PC space. So what is going on between Microsoft and Sega, Josh?
I mean, that we absolutely know of. We don't know of anything. So it's, to me, it's all speculative, but it is interesting because so there are two things going on here. I think one is, it seems like if you want to, buy servers or rent servers that are fit for cloud gaming, it seems like Microsoft is the way to go. Like, I feel like with Google and all the investments they must have put into Stadia, like, why isn't anybody going? Well, I guess Google did have some other deal, but with PlayStation going to Microsoft, not Xbox, but Microsoft, and Sega going to Microsoft, seems like they have something to offer in terms of that technology. So there's that. But I do think that this is interesting because I think it might have even been on one of my previous appearances on GameOnDaily where I had said that if Microsoft is looking to make another huge acquisition, not quite Bethesda level, but another big one, I think Sega would be a really smart choice if they're trying to build their brand in Japan. Like Sega has, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think Persona is a Sega IP. Yakuza is a Sega IP. There's a lot of appeal there to the Japanese audience. So I think it would be a smart move for them. But any talk of Microsoft, since it's all about acquisitions nowadays, any talk of Microsoft potentially buying Sega because of this, which I feel like that's kind of the inevitable route this discussion goes, I think is purely speculative. I think that it probably is just that Sega wants a really strong cloud gaming platform, and Microsoft happens to have the best one. So they were a good partner.
On that particular, the acquisition rumor or speculation, if that was imminent, if Microsoft were about to acquire Sega, this partnership wouldn't be happening. It wouldn't make any sense, right? Why would you partner with them if you're about to buy them? So it's not an imminent acquisition. People can speculate that it might happen eventually. I don't think this makes it any more or less likely than it was, really. But we can come to that. Before I get to you, Abe, I just want to talk about... So the deal itself, yes, they are doing the whole cloud infrastructure thing, but they also specifically go into a next-gen development environment that Microsoft are helping them set up. So it's a little bit more than the cloud services. And on cloud services, they're... all of these companies going with Microsoft, you do have to consider Amazon as well as arguably the more impressive of the two, because Amazon hosts Fortnite. And if you're looking at cloud infrastructure and you want to know that you can support a buttload of players, you look at Fortnite. All right, so they've got strong competition there, but Microsoft are also working with them on a next-gen development environment, which is interesting because Microsoft and Sega have a huge history of doing this. So if you go back to everybody's favorite console, the Dreamcast, Microsoft provided all of the system software for that, and the online infrastructure was all Microsoft's doing. They've worked with Sega for a long, long time to push particularly the online service elements of gaming, which Dreamcast was pretty much the forerunner for, right?
Yeah.
Abe, what's happening now, Microsoft and Sega?
All right, so I agree with one thing that Josh said. Well, a few things that Josh said, but specifically when you say that all we can do is speculate. So let me do that. Let's just speculate. When they first announced this, I actually in our Discord, and I don't know, Asa, if you're there or not. I was actually arguing with somebody who's in the media that was basically saying this is like a nothing burger. Like this is this is just like the Sony deal. It's just a negotiation or it's just a deal for the cloud. And I said at the time, before some of the other stuff came out, is that like I didn't think so. Now I didn't believe this is an acquisition, and I think everybody goes to that. And I think the thing that people need to realize when it comes to Microsoft and some of the meetings they have with some of these, some of these big companies. not everything needs to be an acquisition. And I would even argue in some cases, it's not the most important thing. Like obviously building up the first party is important. It's very important, but when you look at Microsoft and what they're doing with gaming, with the way they position their company, if you really delve into it, they are all in on gaming. It's not just Game Pass, it's gaming. And these relationships with third party, with big publishers, that are going to it's going to create dependencies on them. It's going to kind of get their tentacles into, these companies, and these companies are going to, they're going to establish themselves as the go-to platform for the technology. I mean, they have a giant game stack, which they're continuing to invest in right now. With Azure, with being the cloud platform and things like that. And these relationships, I would argue, something like establishing this sort of relationship with Sega and helping them with this metaverse game, this giant game. You help them land this, and this becomes the example. It could be bigger than a Sega acquisition, because I would say, like, you buy the company, of course, other third parties are going to look at that. Other third party publishers are going to say, well, of course, you own them. Of course, you'd expect these things to be a success. But if you can start to help companies that you don't own be successful, transition to the next paradigm, now that creates like, you think back to, let's think back to the PS1. How Sony really redefined the landscape with third-party partners back then, and they became the go-to platform for third parties because they did things different than what Nintendo did back then. And so all of a sudden, all the third parties started to kind of support their platform. You kind of established that you've given yourself security going into that next paradigm. And if you look even deeper into it, this game that Sega wants to invest in, this metaverse game or whatever they're calling it, that mega game, is today it came out. It's going to be nearly $1 billion of investment. Sega's worth a few billion, but they're not like a Take-Two or EA. So that is like them mortgaging the farm. They're pushing it all in for whatever this game is. And so them being excited about this relationship with Microsoft, they're going to need, good God, chat. They're going to need lots of money. They're going to need obviously the technology, the platform, all this tools, all these things to make this dream come true. Like, to me, I look at it like, when a small business owner and they mortgage their house and they invest their life savings because they're going to go for it. It feels like Sega's doing something similar. I mean, you start talking about investing almost $1 billion in a single metaverse, whatever this thing is. Like, that is the farm. And if Microsoft is now the company they're dependent on, of course they're going to leverage that for other things. And that's what I said. It's like, the deal on its face is just for this thing, but nothing like in business exists in a vacuum, right? Like, these relationships, there's a lot of give and take, and and if you have a company that really needs you and they need a lot of your things, and it's going to be very expensive, you can go, hey, these other things, which aren't nearly as important to you, like let's get some of these on Game Pass. And they've already said, Sega said earlier this year that Game Pass worked out really well for them. I think it was like February, March, they came out with something. I don't know if it was their financial release or something. They talked about Game Pass and the impact it had on their games and helping those. We talked earlier about Mindshare, and it helped those games get a lot of engagement. And they wanted to kind of to lean into that. And then you kind of you look at, and then a few months ago, they talked about bringing back old IPs, dormant IPs. They had a list of them on there. I think I had to go look at that list again, but there was a lot of those classic IPs that, for somebody like me and you, Asa, growing up that loves Sega, that would, get us kind of excited. It's like, so you think about, you start putting all these things together. It's like, okay, we want to bring back dormant IPs. We liked Game Pass. Game Pass is a platform that maybe could bring back some of these things. We just saw Total War be announced for Game Pass. That's a game that's sold 36 million, I think. So that's not a game that needed Game Pass at all. That's the other way around. That's the biggest third-party day one game that Microsoft has announced for PC Game Pass, and they've announced it early enough where it could affect, pre-orders. So obviously this is a deal that's really benefiting them. So I would say that, I don't expect any imminent acquisition. I don't think that's necessarily the most important thing or even the most exciting thing. I think what's exciting is that maybe SEGA and Microsoft have found a mutual relationship that can bolster both. It can bolster Game Pass. It can bolster their platform, which needs a lot more kid-friendly games. It needs family-friendly games. It needs more Japanese content. It needs more PC content. And SEGA has all three of those. And then SEGA needs them for this, billion-dollar universe game, whatever that is. So, I think there's a lot of exciting possibilities. And I would expect Microsoft to leverage it.
Do you know, for me, you're absolutely right. The most exciting bit isn't the acquisition talk or anything like that. It's not about exclusives. It's about what games are going to come out of this deal. And the super game strategy, I don't think it's going to be a single game, like all eggs in one basket. This is our $800 million game or whatever it is. It's going to be multiple, but they've talked about, like you say, bringing back old IP. And Sega have a lot of IP that means something to a lot of people, but they have dropped the ball with most of them over pretty much since they went third party, right? But let's have a little talk about some Sega IP. So, Seif, you hate Sega, but what's your favorite Sega IP? What do you want to see them bring back?
I don't hate Sega. You got me all wrong, man. I prefer Nintendo. Okay, but no, Sega has plenty of really nice IP. Shenmue is a particular one that I like. So I don't know if there's any more plans for Shenmue, but I haven't actually played the last one. What else? I'm looking at all the chat. There's loads of really interesting ideas there. People are commenting.
Chat, keep them coming.
Crazy Taxi. Keep them coming, guys. This is brilliant. Shinobi. Oh, yeah, Shinobi was really good. I've got the Sega collection on my Switch, actually. So I'm combining the best of both worlds. A Nintendo console with a massive Sega library, and I was enjoying it for some time. So Streets of Rage, Golden Axe. I do like those kind of Altered Beast. I love their scrolling beat-em-ups. I think they have some.
What ones do you think would work today?
Ooh. Well, we did see Streets of Rage 4, which is brilliant, and to play that on the cloud as well on my phone is fantastic. But the old Sega IPs, I think they need to just shoot Sonic dead now, because that's done and dusted. There's no place in this world for a blue, speedy little hedgehog.
So much better than Mario.
It's not better than Mario. Mario kick his ass, man. Haven't you played Smash Brothers? Anyway, someone saying Moonwalker. No thanks. Skies of Arcadia, that's an idea. They have actually quite a lot of racing games which were really cool in the arcades, like Sega Rally and things like that. So it'd be nice to see something along those lines come back. And I mean, okay, maybe the market is a little bit oversaturated for racing games now, talking about Forza earlier on. But the return of a Sega Rally game might be interesting. Crazy Taxi. Power Stone. I like Power Stone. There you go.
Capcom game, but sure.
Is Power Stone Sega? That's Capcom,
No.
isn't it? That's Capcom. My bad.
That's Capcom.
It was on the
Yeah, it was
Dreamcast, though. It's a Dreamcast.
That's why.
exclusive,
That's
so.
why. Yeah. Okay. See, I was half right. So what else is it? House of the Dead. Someone just mentioned that, I think. Yeah. I mean, they have brilliant IP, so it would be really interesting to see some of them come back. But what this super game is going to be, I have no idea. But it's very interesting anyway. So just got to keep our eyes peeled and see what they reveal.
What about you, Josh? What do you hope to see happen? Or if you could just pick any Sega IPs to bring back and make amazing, what would you go for? What do you have feelings for?
I did see, I think it's Sleepy Goblin 2D in the chat said a dark and gritty adult Echo the Dolphin a while back. And I actually think Echo,
That'd be awesome.
for back in the day, I liked Echo. I have gone back to play some of them. They don't really hold up that well, but that as a kid, I always thought that was a cool game. But, I think that, like, I know they have Phantasy Star Online, but, back in the day, Phantasy Star was, like, when you go back to Super Nintendo Genesis, Phantasy Star was to the Genesis what Final Fantasy was to the Super Nintendo.
Yep.
And I feel like if they invested in maybe like a really cool single player RPG, that could be cool. I feel like Panzer Dragoon, they've dropped the ball on that. If they made a really polished, high quality game on that, whether it's the old school on rails shooter or like they, I don't know how many people remember Panzer Dragoon Saga, but that's, one of the better RPGs of that generation that because it was on the Saturn, got like no attention. So they have stuff. They also had a real time or no, not real time, but like a turn-based strategy series, Shining Force, back in the day, that was really good.
You're talking my language. Carry on.
Yeah, like there's a lot
that's
of
on
old
the collection as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Really
old
good.
Sega stuff that could come back. And then, yeah, you get onto the Dreamcast. Like, I was never a big fan of Crazy Taxi. I'm trying to think what other Dreamcast games there were, because that was one of my favorite consoles. Jet Grind Radio, please, or Jet Set Radio, whatever you call
Jet
it.
Set
Please
Radio. Yeah,
bring that back. I love that game. So they have some stuff that I'd like to see. I do think they struggle. People like me know these games, but these IP, again, they don't even hold a candle to Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo, because I think Sega has kind of dropped the ball. Virtua
It's
Fighter's
a sad
another
thing. Like I wasn't really into console wars when I was young because I just didn't have the hostility. I was more Sega than Nintendo. Like, I owned the Sega console. I'd take every opportunity to play on a Nintendo console, right? I was never into the playground argument stories that other people have, because I just didn't have enough friends that were into games enough to argue about them. So I'd take any opportunity
I lost
to play
many
either.
friends.
I don't think
But-
they had spaces back then either, Asa.
They
so
didn't have
that
spaces,
probably
that's
helped.
true. Twitter spaces were not a thing. But I was more Sega, right? So there's a ton of Sega IP that I would love to see like brought back, or literally just redone, the versions that I played. Josh mentioned Panzer Dragoon Saga, or Panzer Dragoon RPG if you're in different parts.
Yeah, it's-
Which was absolutely phenomenal, and I'd love to see that properly remastered. It's a sad thing, they were actually doing... there was a Panzer Dragoon VR project in the works that had Sega's blessing, and it was going to cover Saga as part of it, as well as the other Panzer Dragoon games that I was less keen on. But something's gone horribly wrong, and they recently announced that the producer was dead, and then he turned up on social media like, no, I'm not.
Wow.
But I don't think that game's going to happen, which is a sad story. Shining Force 3 is
man.
also, and Phantasy Star, they're all special games to me, so I'd love to see these from Sega. But like you said, when Sega left hardware and started trying to really push and leverage the value of these IP, pretty much everything that they released for the next decade was painful,
Mediocre.
mediocre,
Yeah,
and
they lost
damaging to the
momentum.
IP that they had, right? Yeah. Abe, talk to me.
I mean, you guys ended up naming them, obvious. The big ones. Shinobi seems like something that you could bring back, like a Ninja Gaiden, right? Like, do that. I loved both Ninja Gaiden and Shinobi in the 2D era, and I love Ninja Gaiden in the 3D era. I think Shinobi can follow a similar path, especially with all the Souls and the Neos. Like that seems like that's right. And then Jet Set Radio. And I sent you a link, by the way, in our little StreamYard chat there that showed they did a when they had that meeting, they actually showed some examples of like their active IP and their dormant IPs, and that kind of stood out to me because they specifically list Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio. By the way, Jet Set Radio Future, that's the other one that needs to come back, and I feel like you could even make that fun in an open world. So
Totally.
that's something that would evolve.
Yeah.
You know, Space Channel 5, they mentioned. I never played that. And then Panzer Dragoon. Like, I never had a Saturn. I always heard about Saga. And to me, that makes sense. Like, I played Orta on the OG Xbox. And I was always disappointed that they went on rails and they didn't do a proper RPG back then.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, and then you got Knights and Virtual Fighter is another one. So yeah, and like Street Fighter or Streets of Rage, was Streets of Rage 4 was pretty good. I like that.
Yeah,
So
I
I
loved
want to
it.
see them. So yeah, the problem is I feel like a lot of their IPs, they are beloved, but they work better as kind of like as a team than they do like individually. Like I have a hard time imagining a lot of those games selling a ton for like $60 by itself.
Yeah.
But you get a bunch of those things and you start to bring them into like a service. And I think that, again, all that stuff ties back to what we were saying before. And I think that would excite me a lot. Like just go ahead and announce a new Jet Set Radio in like an open world. And I'll be even willing to deal some icons in an open world for that game.
Do you know, service is a fun
Published by
word.
Ubisoft.
I'm gonna my own game. So I had a Saturn and Panzer Dragoon Saga. The Panzer Dragoon series was on rails. It was an on-rails shooter for the first one and Zwei, the second one, and they went back to it for the Xbox Orta. But Panzer Dragoon Saga came out at the death of the Saturn, which is why so few people got to play it. And it's worth a lot now. I've got a boxed copy that my wife wanted me to sell, and I'm like, no, leave me alone, go away, I'm not selling that. It's Panzer Dragoon Saga, it's mine. It's one of my favourite games of all time. I absolutely adore that game. But the other one, Shining Force 3. So Shining Force 1 and 2, like you say, Seif, you can get those on various Genesis collections, Mega Drive collections, and they're fun enough. But Shining Force 3 was a difficult one because they released it. It was quite ambitious, and it was released as 3 separate games that intertwined. So you had scenarios, and 1 and 2 basically had you playing as opposite sides on like the Empire and the Republic or whatever. And then the third one kind of like bookended it, took the story of both and pushed it forwards. And in the UK and the US, only Scenario 1 ever made it out. And Scenario 1, given the ambition of the game, didn't seal off the story at all. It wasn't supposed to. I actually played through Scenarios 2 and 3 in Japanese, and all I understood was the names, because for some reason, if you'd played the English, you had an English save file, it would give you the names of the characters in English, but none of the rest of the text, and I didn't know what was going on. And about 15 years later, I managed to get some of the user translated mods for it and played it through an emulator to finally catch the story. But that's another game that I absolutely adore from Sega that I'm sure I'll never see again, but it's nice to reminisce. But service, you mentioned service, and then you look at Sega and you look at Phantasy Star Online, which lends itself incredibly well to service, it just does. But you look at where they took it on a free-to-play model, and then you look at Super Game Strategy, and everything about it says we're building games as a service with our IP. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be good? Should we be worried? Are they going to bring back all of these characters, all of these IPs? Are we going to get Shinobi and Phantasy Star and Panzer Dragoon and Crazy Taxi for free with microtransactions and the leprosy?
Well, I don't think those would work. Those don't have that kind of engagement, right? Like I feel like those need to work the other way around, like where, people are constantly engaging with like smaller content rather than it's the game that owns your life. Like you're not gonna get 20 million people to play Jet Set Radio even as a free to play game and buy microtransactions or Crazy Taxi. I don't know. Maybe they get stuck in that big metaverse that maybe they're all like little subsections of that. That would be kind of interesting. I don't know how that exactly would end up working either, but I can't see those types of things individually going free to play. Maybe as collectively they're going to fill some role in whatever they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I have no idea what that metaverse game is.
It's all speculative, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, Abe, you touched on it, but like I feel like their IPs just, I don't know if a single one of them has like a super mass market appeal. Maybe we just haven't seen them in the correct light yet. Maybe they can do that, but like even Sonic, I just don't think has it, and what do they have that could sell 5-10 million copies or get 10-20 million people playing?
Stoned Patrol has just said, wow, Sega owns Toe Jam and Earl. They need to reboot that shit ASAP.
About that one.
They did.
Well, there's your
they
10
did
million
reboot
right
Toe Jam and Earl. And I'm going to bring that up. But we are, I think we're pretty much past our finishing point. So we'll start to wrap up there while I find Toe Jam and Earl. So I hope the three of you have had a fantastic time. I hope everyone that's watched in chat has had a good time. If you're watching live with us on YouTube, thanks for coming. If you're picking this up later on Spotify or any of the other podcasting platforms, thanks for giving us your attention. It's always great to be able to talk to everybody here. So thank you for that. Let's start with Josh. Josh, I hope you've had a fantastic time. Please tell me, but everybody else here as well, what you're up to at the moment, what we can look forward to from Quest Mode.
Well, I had a great time. Always have fun coming on the show, so hope to come back. You can find me on YouTube. It's just Quest Mode, 2 words. And I used to do kind of preview focused content like Asa was saying, but I've shifted over more to like tips and guides. I am currently working on a tips video for Forza Horizon 5. I'm going to try and get it out as close to the official launch as possible, but it might be a day or two after. So if you're like me and you're playing and you're feeling overwhelmed, tune in and hopefully I can give you a few pointers. That's what I'm working on. You can also find me on Twitter. I am at Quest Mode Games. I just kind of post what I'm playing over there and little blurbs. And That's it. Yeah. Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome.
Pleasure.
Tip 1, get to the checkpoints as fast as you can. It's a race.
Yes.
That's awesome. And I highly recommend checking out that channel. So Josh puts loads of effort into the videos that he's putting together. They're worth a look if you're interested in the games that he's covering. So go there and subscribe as soon as we're done here.
And I do just want to say,
go for it.
Seif and Abe, good to meet you guys. I hadn't met
Oh
you
yeah,
before, so
absolutely.
great
It was
chat.
great. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Abe, what are you up to?
Sir. Well, first of all, Asa, it was great to be on. Well, great to be on with all you guys, and to meet a couple of you for the first time. But good to see you again. Thanks for inviting me, and it's always fun to come on here, and listen to me get into data and analytics, and bore half your audience. But I appreciate the platform to do that. But if people want to find me, I'm a senior writer over at Xbox Era. Generally, our show starts right after yours ends, but this week we're on this weird daylight savings thing, so we're running into each other. So if you guys will go over there after this show and go, Xbox Era's our main podcast, and let Nick know that I'm much better, much more well spoken than he is. And just go give him hell. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter at onebadmother at mother_1, or sometimes I put some of my articles over on the GameOnDaily. So if you go over there, keep an eye out for us over there as well. And for Halo fans, I do run I'm co-host of the You Had Me at Halo podcast, which is a bi-weekly podcast. So if you love Halo, every other week on Thursday, leading up to the launch of the game, come check us out and talk about whatever new information comes out. So thanks again.
Excellent. So I'm going to make everybody watch this Toe Jam and Earl thing. So while you're watching Toe Jam and Earl, so Xbox Era, normally I think they start at 11, so pretty much when we wrap up. Time zones have changed a bit, so they're probably on right now. They've got Destin on today. If you're interested in Xbox, it's probably a great show to go and check out as soon as we're done here. So do that and check out Xbox Era. And thank you, Abe, for coming along and talking to us. It's been good.
Yeah.
Seif, you have to wait. Toe Jam and Earl's playing.
Okay, let's wait for
That's enough Toe Jam and Earl. Seif, also,
Yes, sir.
thank you for joining us and being
Thank you.
the Sauce Meister for the show without Gaz here, the Falafel King. Tell us what you're up to, what you're playing, what's coming next from the Sauce series.
Oh, well, we've got plenty of things planned for the Source, and I do apologize that the hype was not as much as usual because Gaz is not with us today. I don't know what he drinks or what he smokes. I tried my best anyway. But thank you for having me on the show, and we're just going to be looking forward to some more saucy videos. We have plenty of really cool ideas, and we're going to get more elaborate, crazier, wilder, more ambitious. So just watch this space for that. You can find me on Twitter at Virtuous Scimitar. I think Isla's very kindly posting all the links up there on the chat now. So take a look. I haven't done much by myself yet, but I'm very happy to be a part of GameOnDaily, and always a pleasure to be to meet a Jedi, to be on the show, and to meet you guys and talk to the people watching and answer some comments and have some fun with you guys. Always a pleasure, man. Love it.
Cool. Thank you as well for coming on and taking that place and sitting right above me there, being all energetic. I'm going to give myself an outro too. Hey, so what are you up to? Well, funny you should ask. I'm going to be doing some streaming. I'm going to be doing some VR. I've got a heart rate monitor. I'm playing some horror games. It's ridiculous and good fun. You should come along, and if I'm acting brave when I'm playing these games, a heart rate monitor utterly betrays me. So I'm having a good time there.
That's a good idea.
But yeah, it is a good idea. It's quite funny. But that's it. So thanks for sitting here. I know you all miss Gaz. I'm aware. He's a prick, but he's funny. So he'll be back auto-tuning and all the rest of it next week. Don't worry. Thanks for sticking with us. And that is it. We'll see you next time.